Hello, everybody. I have to warn you, this is not a 10 bullet point manual how to do a checklist. So it isn't on place and it's quite boring. I want to take you on a journey in a bit more philosophical way. What is storytelling about and what is spatial storytelling about and what is the paradigm shift between the last medium we are used to and the new medium we are working for. The reason why I'm here is storytelling has become a bit of a buzzword the last month, if not years, and it's used quite often in a very misleading way. And I try to avoid, whenever I do a speech or a workshop, I try to avoid the word storytelling in VR because it feels somehow wrong for me, and I prefer content creation. So where I am, this is the wrong, there's supposed to be one going forward. Maybe it's the wrong one. Thank you. I am working for storytelling then more or less 30 years. So my background is film producer, I'm creative producer, I'm doing script consulting, and most of all, I'm head of the first movie program in Bavaria, in Munich, which is a talent program supports young filmmakers and media professionals in storytelling. We also do, I'm working for the Bavarian Film Center, or Bayerisches Film Center, which is a startup incubator on the compound of Bavaria Film Studios. It's since 1991. I think it's the eldest of its kind in Germany. And we offer scholarships and coaching support for film producers and media professionals. So it's not only focused on film, it's also for media. The first movie program with the very retro logo is, and the retro title, is in stage since 1998, and we support filmmakers with their first project. It's an exclusive program only for young talent. And we are sponsored by a media partner, so there's a collaboration with 30 media partners, such as broadcasters and production companies. And we started 5 years ago to implement additional training formats for digital storytelling. We do international conferences like the I4C conference. We have a writer's room lab for serial fictional writing. We had the first immersive storytelling hackathon for 360 video last year in Munich with over 50 participants, and this was the start for BR Next, which is a huge department in the Bayerische Rundfunk for 360 movies. It was the start for Terra X 360, it was the start for Galilei 360, so it was quite successful. But I think what we consider successful is to bring people together and let them network and let them get access to technologies and learn how to work with them. Our latest conference was the I4C conference, end of October, for content creation in virtual worlds. And again, it was the first conference focused only on content creation, so not only as other VR conferences having a big bow or big spectrum from industrial applications or business models. So we really focused on what can content creation do, and we had some interesting international experts there. And in my perception, it was really the first conference. We met film producers in the audience. We will be launching a VR accelerator program for writers, for advanced writers, only on a European base next year. So keep your eyes open, and there will be a lineup of I4C conferences, hackathons, and training sessions. So again, our background is content creation, storytelling. So this is where we are roving around, but I think VR is a multidisciplinary field, and we need to bring people together. This is the reason why I decided to change my talk a bit. I don't know whether you have seen this movie. It's a 10-minute short movie for 360 degree called The Invisible Man. And I don't want to spoil the content if you want to enjoy it, to watch the movie, but what happens in the very last scene is that somebody, this actor, pointed with a gun in my face, and then he shot. And that was the end of the experience, blackout credits. I was sitting like, what? I was a kind of absolutely non-interactive, non-approached user, and suddenly somebody shot me in the face. I have to say, I really got mad. I was so angry that I said I need to write an email to these guys. But first of all, I want to talk about you and hopefully inspire you to think about the user. Why is this? I want to start a bit in the beginning. In my opinion, mixed reality is a new medium. Mixed reality meaning virtual reality, augmented reality, however we name it, however, what will come up the next years in the technological developments. It will be the medium of the 21st century, and it won't vanish, it won't go away. As we had the novel, as we had the moving pictures in the 20th centuries, and they won't vanish too. So we still will read books, so don't be afraid of this. But we need to think about what is this new medium for us and how can we create content for this. So what we can't do, obviously, is to just put our old content into the new medium. This is the beginning of what we did 100 years ago when we started to have moving pictures, and we hold the camera to everything which moves, and it was the awe. Wow, somebody's moving in front of my camera, and we can watch it. We are in that state right now. It's still the awe. If you put on the headsets and something is 360 around us, it's an awe. But it's not storytelling, just to be clear about that. I still see experiences where people put a camera rig in the room of something, I don't know what happens, and tell this is storytelling. No, it's just a room, and I can watch what's happening in that room. So we need to think about, why do we tell stories? In the very first place, why do we tell stories? I don't want to make it an academic lesson. I think it's all speculation, but it's quite, I think in my opinion, quite clear. We tell stories since the beginning of manhood because we try to explain the unexplainable in a way. So we need to find solutions. Why is there a heaven and an earth? Is there a God? Why do we live? What is coming after death? And all these spiritual questions, we try to understand what's going on. But for us as a content creator for virtual worlds, it's even more important to understand, why do we listen to stories still? Why do we listen to stories? Why do we sit in a cinema for 2 hours of our lifetime and watch a movie? Why are we reading a book of 300, 500, 1,000 pages? Why do we do that? Why do we do that again and again and again? Because the number of plots is quite limited. So I think there must be a reward of good stories that we are longing for. There must be something we want to experience. And this is an emotional connection. There is a deputy for our world in the stories world. It's the protagonist. He is the deputy of what we might feel in his situation. If we connect to the protagonist or one of the characters in a story, we can feel what he feels. And somehow we adjust with our own experience and think, okay, well, I'm not a superhero, but I can understand this superhero is struggling with, let's say, the acknowledgement, being acknowledged by his father, or try to find love. This is something we can rely on. We know how it feels, or we can imagine how it feels. And this is the level we are connecting to a story. So I want to make clear distinction between a plot and a story. Mostly what I see right now still in experiences are just plots. Plot is a sequence of action. Something's happening, and then some other thing happens, and then something happens again. It's not a story. A story means that there is a line, there's a journey, an emotional journey. There are meta layers beyond it. And a good story is character-driven. We call it character-driven because the plot comes out of the character. It comes out of the character because his action is based on a certain motivation. And this is the key word, motivation. As soon as we understand why a character is doing what he's doing, what's his motivation, we can connect. If we don't understand what's his motivation, we struggle a bit. Maybe we try again, but we struggle a bit. If you look at pure action, super stunt trash movies with a lot of, rotten cars, it's just a sequence of plots. It can make fun. It can be really fun to watch it if you like to see cars throwing to the air. But it's not a story. It's just a sequence of actions. And there's a third thing we need to think about. It's very much into storytelling, but you might have heard about the difference between need and want. So we talk about that if you create a character, that he might have a want in the beginning. That's quite clear. Mostly a material thing. He want to find the treasure. He want to rescue the world. He want to release the princess. He want to solve something. He want to take revenge. It's quite obvious in the beginning of a story. It's well planted, normally it's established, and at the beginning of his journey. But during his journey, the character finds out that there is a need underlying on his want, that there is a reason why he is the one who is on this journey, that there is a motivation beyond the pure motivation to get rich, and this is his need. And a good story, which leads us on our hands and leads us through the story, explains us the need. This is the layer we can connect with the story. I hope it's not too abstract for you, but I'm happy to explain deeper. I'm here until tomorrow night, so it's really, really important to know about this. It's not the pure action, it's an emotional part. It's a psychological journey we are doing. And once we are watching a movie, reading a book, we are connecting with one of these characters because we understand how he feels. And we do understand how he feels because we know his motivation. And this makes a story funny or sad or thrilling, suspenseful. This is the reason why I go into the cinema. This is the reason why we laugh or we cry in a movie. So I tried to find a good picture for all these layers, and I ended up with Deep Dreaming. You know, probably this application. It's a nice game to play. Deep Dreaming is an algorithm program. So you can just implement one of your photos, and you can choose one of these choices like waves or tiny dogs or whatever, and then the algorithm renders based on the data he finds or it finds in your picture, renders certain creatures or certain new patterns. And it's an endless game, so you can adjust many, many features here. But what I want to say, it just can render based on the data already in the picture. So it's a bit like psychology, a bit like storytelling. You have the action of your story, but underneath is lying the true story and the theme, and this is why we listen to stories. Why do I tell you this? Because most of you probably are not writing screenplays, because we have a tremendous paradigm shift in spatial narration. I think most important paradigm shift already has happened in gaming and in interactive nonlinear storytelling, that the audience is going to be the user, meaning you can do something, you can interact, you can be part of the story, you can change the story. We know this already if we game, if we are doing transmedia storyboards. But this one, to break the fourth wall, is the real paradigm shift. It's not new, by the way. It's something in theater happens in thousands of years, or can happen. But the fulfillment of this being part of a story, entering literally, I stop it because you'll get crazy. Entering a story literally, you be part of that world, makes you not only a user, it makes you a character. So this is the news. Once you had an audience, like I have now, there is an unseen fourth wall between us. Here's the stage. You can watch what I'm saying. But you're not really, you can go, you're not really involved. But as soon as I bring you on the stage, here at my side, you are part of my world. And this is happening in a 360 environment. No matter if we talk about 360 movies or we talk about real-time 4CG, no matter if we talk about interactive possibilities or non-interactive possibilities, as soon as I have this headset on my head, I'm in your world, and I'm your character. We have several possibilities what kind of character I could be. I think one of the most common is ghost. This is what I was in The Invisible Man. A ghost means I just could watch. I can't do anything. I just watch, look around, see what's happening, wait until it's finished, or wait until somebody shoots in my face, and that's it. It's a ghost position, and the term ghost comes up with the Oculus Story Studio with Sascha Unseld. They created it based on Patrick Swayze being Ghost in this 80s movie. So he couldn't connect to the real world, the world of the living. He was in this twilight zone, being dead but not already in heaven. So he couldn't interact. To be a ghost can be extremely frustrating, especially if you watch something you can't stand. Noni de la Peña, I don't know, are you familiar with Noni de la Peña's work? She's immersive journalism. She's experimenting for 10 years or so with virtual reality, and she's building in Unity very rough, not realistic looking situations based on authentic stories, based on what really happened. And it's partly unbearable to watch these experiences not being able to interact or to help or to do something. So it can be frustrating, and you should know about the feeling you produce in your user. I will be frustrated if you don't give me anything to do or to interact. So you can do that, but you should be aware what it does. Third person, I just want to mention it because it's in game for gamers. It's quite common, I think. Third person games means that you're sitting in front of your monitor and there's an avatar running in front of you, so you have the perspective as if you're on his heels, as if you are he. I think that makes no sense in 360 movies, and I haven't seen it so far in 360 games. Maybe there is some, but I think doesn't make really sense. Second person is quite common in virtual reality, and that means that I'm a character being involved in the story, like in Invasion, for example, if you have seen it, or in Henry from Oculus Story Studio, or in Clouds over Sidra, that somebody is addressing me directly, meaning the character is looking into the camera and makes eye contact. Or it addresses me directly via dialogue, asking me something, or addresses me via action, or wants me to do something. So I'm involved, I'm a second person, and I'm pretty aware that I'm now part of the story. In Narration, this bunny, animated bunny, tries to hide behind me because there's danger, there's a threat of aliens. And it's a funny emotion that suddenly came into my mind because I wanted to be out of the line. There are aliens with weapons I don't know, and there's a bunny and they want to shoot it, and I'm in the middle, and I couldn't get rid of the bunny in my bag. It was a funny way to play with the perspective in 360. And of course, there's first person, the POV, the perspective of the protagonist. That is very interesting. You can do a lot of things with this, but you should be aware, how can you make the user understand that he is the protagonist? So you need to be really careful and aware that you need to give some hints that the user is the protagonist. I think there is also the possibility to involve the user or not involve him, and of course you have the interaction or non-interaction depending on your technologies you're using or the decision you are making. But basically it's about this dozen possibilities what your user can be in your world. The important thing is that you really put yourself into the user's shoe and think, what do I want my user to experience? What kind of emotions should he feel? And how should he come back into reality? This is something you should really think about. Because storytellers know the hero's journey, and I think there is a user's journey as well. We don't have rituals yet how to use virtual reality. We don't know how to go to the television. We know how it works to go into the theater. We know what happens in cinema. Curtains open, there are trailers, ads, the Iceman, curtains close, light up, curtains open, credit sequence, ta-ta. We don't know how we experience virtual reality. It might be an environment like here. It might be a virtual reality cinema, but there is no ritual already. So basically what happens is that the user or the character is in the real world, in the known world. Let's say here, we know the environment. And as soon as we put on the headset, we are crossing the threshold into this unknown world, which is your experience. And now immersion, hopefully immersion starts if it's well done. And now, as in a movie in the second act, we need time to explore where are we, what are the mechanics, who am I in this environment, what can I do, what can't I do, what's happening. So it will take some time until we finally find out what is this experience about. If we connect because your experience is emotional, we will feel empathy, and this is at least something we really want to achieve, the empathy of the user. And if the user feels empathy, he might come back into reality with the call to action, with a social impact like Gabo Aurora achieved with Clouds over Sidra, that these guys in Davos on the economic summit, World Economic Summit, watched the refugee camp in Jordania on a cardboard 3 years ago, and the donation rate was rising and skyrocketing. So the experience is caused directly call to action to the user. So I want to give you some tools. It's really, I know it's a roller coaster, but just want to share some thoughts with you. We do have tools, of course, as we do have in filmmaking and as we do in every other media. Besides visuals, which is quite obvious, of course it has to look great and you have to fill the sphere somehow, made with movies or with film, let it be with animation. Besides visuals, you have the sounds and the sound effects and the atmos. Atmos means the atmosphere of a room. And I think that sound is much more important even than in movies for virtual reality, because it also helps you not only to exclude reality and make it possible to dive into the virtual reality, but also creates the world. And if you have